On June 5th, 2025, at midnight, lines wrapped around electronic stores from Tokyo to New York. 3.5 million consoles sold in 4 days, the fastest launch in the history of video games. Within 10 months, nearly 20 million. The company behind it booked 2.3 trillion yen in a single year, roughly $15.5 billion, almost double the year before. Here's what nearly nobody standing in those lines knew. The company they were queuing for is 137 years old. It was founded before the automobile existed, in a small wooden shop in Kyoto, to make playing cards, by hand. And on the way from that shop to that midnight line, this company nearly died, not once, 3 times. It ran a taxi fleet, it sold instant rice, by many accounts, it rented hotel rooms by the hour. Almost all of it failed. What saved it wasn't a grand vision. It was a maintenance engineer, the man hired to fix the machines on the card factory floor, and a toy he built to amuse himself between repairs. This is the story of Nintendo. 3 near-death experiences, 1 rule that put a tax on an entire industry, and the most quietly ruthless company in entertainment. 1889, Kyoto, Japan. A craftsman named Fusajiro Yamauchi opens a small shop making hanafuda, Japanese flower cards painted by hand on mulberry bark. One popular story says the name he chose, Nintendo, means leave luck to heaven. Historians still argue about that. What's certain is where the cards sold best, gambling parlors weren't exactly respectable, and for decades Nintendo's best customers were people playing for money. For 60 years, that was the whole company. Cards. Then, in 1949, the founder's great-grandson, Hiroshi Yamauchi, 22 years old, pulled out of university, with no business experience, took over as president. His first act was to fire every executive loyal to his grandfather. He would run Nintendo alone, answering to no one, for the next 53 years. Yamauchi modernized, plastic-coated cards, and in 1959, a licensing deal to put Disney characters on them. 600,000 packs sold in a single year, opening card games to Japanese families for the first time. Nintendo went public in 1962, and then Yamauchi hit the ceiling. Everyone in Japan who wanted playing cards had them, so he tried everything else. A taxi company, instant rice, by many accounts, a chain of by-the-hour hotels, a vacuum cleaner. Every one of them failed, and by the mid-60s, near-death number 1, Nintendo's stock had cratered and the company was drowning in debt from ventures it never should have started. The rescue came off the factory floor. In 1965, Nintendo had hired a young engineer named Gunpei Yokoi to maintain the card-making machines. One day, Yamauchi noticed a toy Yokoi had built to amuse himself, a crisscrossing wooden arm that extended like scissors to grab things across the room. Yamauchi ordered it into production for Christmas. The Ultra Hand became a phenomenon, selling by the hundreds of thousands, over 1 million units by most accounts. Yokoi never fixed another machine. His new job description, in Yamauchi's words, make things people want to play with. Toys, light guns, laser shooting ranges built inside Japan's abandoned bowling alleys. And in 1980, a line of pocket-sized LCD games called Game & Watch. 43 million sold. The card company was gone. The toy company was thriving. And it was about to bet everything on a warehouse full of failure in New Jersey. 1980. Yamauchi sends his son-in-law Minoru Arakawa to open Nintendo of America. Their beachhead product, an arcade shooter called Radar Scope. Arakawa orders 3,000 cabinets. It flops. 2,000 unsold machines sit dead in a New Jersey warehouse. Near death number 2. Nintendo's American adventure is over before it starts, unless someone can turn those exact cabinets into a hit. Every real game designer is busy. So Yamauchi hands the job to a 28-year-old staff artist who has never designed a game in his life. Shigeru Miyamoto. Miyamoto doesn't know arcade games are supposed to be about shooting. He builds a story instead, a carpenter, a girl, and a barrel-throwing gorilla. The distributors hate the name, Donkey Kong. It becomes one of the biggest arcade hits in history. Tens of thousands of cabinets, hundreds of millions of dollars in quarters, and a mustachioed hero who would soon be renamed Mario. Success brought lawyers. Universal Studios sued, claiming Donkey Kong stole King Kong. Nintendo's attorney, John Kirby, found the fatal flaw. Universal itself had once argued in court, and won, that King Kong was public domain. Nintendo won the case, bought Kirby a $30,000 sailboat as a thank you, and later named a small pink video game hero after him. Now Yamauchi went for the throne. In 1983, he ordered a home console so cheap no competitor could follow, the Famicom, at 14,800 yen, roughly $100, powered by a chip order so enormous that Ricoh cut Nintendo a price nobody else could get. And that same year, on the other side of the Pacific, the American video game industry burned to the ground. The crash of 1983. Atari, the fastest-growing company America had ever seen, was literally burying truckloads of unsold cartridges in a New Mexico landfill. The cause? Anyone could make a game for Atari's console. Anyone did. A flood of shovelware buried the market, and retail simply stopped ordering. Yamauchi studied the wreckage and wrote the rule this entire empire stands on. On Nintendo's machine, nothing runs without Nintendo's permission. A lockout chip inside every console checked every cartridge for Nintendo's key. Publishers who wanted in signed licenses. Royalties to Nintendo on every copy. Cartridges manufactured by Nintendo, paid up front. 5 titles per year, quality approved, stamped with Nintendo's seal. Microsoft, remember, taxed every PC clone. Nintendo went one step further. It taxed every single game. July 15th, 1983. The Famicom launches in Japan, 500,000 sold in 2 months. But America was the prize, and America had a problem. After the crash, video game was the dirtiest phrase in retail. Store buyers who had lost fortunes on Atari swore, never again. So Nintendo lied brilliantly. The Famicom was redesigned into a sleek grey box and renamed an entertainment system. Cartridges became game packs, and riding shotgun in the launch bundle, a small motorized robot named ROB. He barely worked, he didn't need to. ROB existed so that a toy buyer looking at the shelf saw a robot toy, not a video game. Nintendo even guaranteed retailers could return every unsold unit. October 18th, 1985, the NES test launches in New York City, then nationwide, then everywhere, with Super Mario Bros. Pulling it forward. By the end of the decade, an NES sat in roughly 1 out of every 3 American homes, and Gunpei Yokoi, the maintenance engineer, did it again in 1989 with a pocket-sized machine called Game Boy. The company that couldn't sell instant rice now had the rule, the characters, and the install base. And every game, from every publisher, paid the toll. One more near death, because Nintendo always gets one more. 2012, the Wii U flopped so badly Nintendo posts its first operating losses in 3 decades, 3 years running. Analysts demand it quit hardware and put Mario on the iPhone. Nintendo refuses and answers with the Switch, which goes on to sell over 155 million units, one of the best-selling machines ever built. Which brings us back to that midnight line. In the fiscal year ending March 2026, Nintendo booked 2.31 trillion yen in revenue, up 99% in a single year, with 360 billion yen in operating profit. The Switch 2 sold 19.86 million consoles in 10 months. Mario Kart World alone, 14.7 million copies. But the numbers hide the design. Notice 3 things. First, unlike its rivals, Nintendo sells hardware at a profit. Sony and Microsoft subsidize their consoles. Nintendo never does. Second, the biggest publisher on Nintendo's platform is Nintendo. It earns the fat software margins on its own bestsellers, and over 400 billion yen of sales now arrive digitally, where margins are fattest. And third, the rule of 1983 never went away. it just changed clothes. Every third-party game on the eShop still pays Nintendo's toll on every copy. 43 years and counting. And now the empire is escaping the console entirely. The Super Mario movie took $1.36 billion at the box office. Theme parks in Osaka, Hollywood, and Orlando. A museum in Kyoto. Characters, it turns out, are the one product that compounds forever. Just ask Disney, the company whose cartoon mice saved Nintendo's card business back in 1959. Nintendo is not a video game company that got lucky. It is a 137-year-old survival machine that sold whatever the moment demanded. Cards, taxis, rice, toys, until it found the only thing no one else could sell, its own characters, on its own machine, under its own rule. IBM lost the future by giving the rights away. Atari died controlling nothing. Nintendo studied both corpses and wrote the opposite ending. Own the machine. Tax the games. And never, ever let go of your characters. Next time, the store that loses money on almost everything it sells you, on purpose, and banks billions anyway. If you don't want to miss Costco, you know what to do.